but just a need. And so I heard about this organization called Lynn Mission, and we went build a house and led to two and started taking groups down. My daughter is 15 years old, and she's built 4 houses down there. So, it's what's unique about One Mission is you have to earn a house. It's not just you put your name in a hat, they shake a bucket, and they pull your name out. You have to serve over 200 hours building other people's houses. So you earn it through that way. And my favorite story is we built a house for a lady. She was 65, and we do a fiesta night every night, every trip, and we do it on like the last night. And the family gets to get up and share about what this means to them, so on and so forth. And she started crying, and the translator was saying, was interviewing. She said, for the first time in my entire life, I get excited when it rains, because whenever it rained before, it would destroy my house and run through our shack. And for the first time, I get to enjoy the rain.
And welcome back to the Money, the Mindset, the Mentoring podcast. Today we have Chase, way out of Southern Arizona, Keller Williams, Southern Arizona, Team Integrity. Chase, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I'm excited.
Man, the first time that I met you, when you came up to the office, and this is one thing that I love about Keller Williams, and I'm just going to shamelessly plug Keller Williams for a minute, is the one thing that I love about Keller Williams is just the collaboration. And the fact that, you come all the way up to Canada, where I live, to just share about your business model, just in giving mode, and really show the things that you've done to build such an amazing force to be reckoned with the team that you're building and with the enterprises that you're running. That's just an awesome give. Why would you do that?
Yeah, it's our culture, right? Culture is everything. People, we can go make money in different avenues or whatnot, but people stay because of culture. And that's with Keller Williams. And, I'm literally 45 minutes from the border, the southern border. And going to Canada was awesome. It was getting to meet people and the relationships we already knew. But it's truly the culture of Keller Williams is somebody has helped me such that I'm now going to try to help somebody else with no expectation of return.
Yeah, and that, I feel that so strongly within the Keller Williams community. We met down at Mega Camp in Austin, I think is where we first met. And, but the idea of, that's what really drew me to it, was the idea that, a lot of the other franchises, just depending where you are, people hide their books, people hide their successes. They don't share. There's no collaboration, lots of silos. And once people, I think, realize that you can find success together through that collaboration with your peers, you can really propel yourself forward.
Yeah, Steve, I think it's the mindset, right? It's scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. Is when you walk around a Keller Williams office, the culture is that there's enough to go around, and we don't need to be scared of the person that shares a wall with us in our office. So, there's enough to go around, and there's always enough room for great agents, and we want to breed the culture of great agents.
Yeah, and you certainly do so. I remember going down and visiting your team up in Scottsdale and hanging out with Bubba and everybody there, and just how amazing they were in collaborating and just having a giving and abundance mindset. Yeah,
Bubba was the first person I met in 8th grade when I moved to Tucson from San Diego. Met him at a wrestling practice before school started.
Nice.
And that was in 1997. So now we're blessed to be business partners, and it's beyond business for us and our team.
Absolutely. I have a friend of mine, she runs a podcast, Beyond Business. So there you go. The idea that you guys came out of wrestling, I knew that there was something that we could hit on because I had the grappling background, still do jiu-jitsu now, and that's a kindred spirit moment right there if I haven't seen one before.
It's a small group of people, and it's the best team individual sport that's out there.
Yeah, that's very well put. I totally agree with that. The best team individual sport, 100%.
Yeah, it's a team culture and everything, but at the end of the day, you cannot blame anybody else. It wasn't the left fielder. It wasn't the other running back. It's you and you alone.
Now, do you find that mentality dribbles into your business in the way that you collaborate and work with people in the team? And what do you see as that fitting into how you view business?
Yeah, I think it's the self-accountability, right? Like if you're highly self-accountable, it makes things exponentially easier. And not to say that you have to constantly be down on yourself, but when you, going back to as simple as growing up wrestling is it teaches you to take ownership. Like you have to have ownership. And that type of mentality, it can be in other sports and other areas, but especially within wrestling is it teaches you ownership and responsibility. And if you can carry those principles forward in life, it'll only be for the better.
And I think the one thing about wrestling that kind of mirrors the sort of sales environment is it's the spectacle style sport rather than the long game sport where, in basketball, you can score 50 goals, 100 goals, and that's this sport's measured over a whole period of time. But wrestling, if you lose one match, you're out of the tournament. In MMA, you look at UFC, they lose one or two matches, you're gone off the podium and it's going to be a long road back. And I think, that also, sometimes sits in the sales space as well, where, you're there to win and you have to win at that moment.
Yeah. And it's, I'm not tall enough to dunk. I'm not fast enough to sprint, or play soccer. So it was when you're built like a brick, you just wrestle. That's just how it goes.
or rugby.
Yeah. That's the other one.
Yeah. No, it's totally true. It's totally true. Now, when we were talking about the idea of looking at, some of the things that we also have adjacent, not just wrestling, is the idea of looking around and seeking different opportunities. Talk to me a little bit about the mindset around that.
Yeah, I've always come from the thought of walk through a door until it closes. And that was my journey into real estate is, I had no desire. I'm from third generation real estate industry. My grandpa lived in San Diego. My dad's been in the title industry for 40 something years, has been president of title companies. And I knew one thing was I was not going to get in the real estate industry. And, but an opportunity, especially within like Keller Williams and leadership, an opportunity presented itself out of the blue, and that door never shut. So I think having the mindset around always being able to recognize opportunity, and I think you have to have some parameters of how you're going to vet opportunity, because not all good opportunity is good for you. So you have to come to a resolve personally about what type of opportunity you want and you want to take advantage of before it comes, so that you can look through it through the lens of this either fits my avatar or it does not.
I love the idea of that. Not all good opportunities are good for you. And so being open, but saying that even though this looks amazing, this just might not be amazing for me.
Yeah. And it might be for a couple reasons. It might be, once you negate the money part of, I'm not going to make opportunities solely based off of the financial incentive, everything else becomes exponentially easier. Like, I'm not going to go take a job for $300,000 to be a women's national basketball coach. Like, that's not a good, the money's cool, but I have no idea what I'm doing. It's not good. Like, I can hand them towels and like, that's about it. Right? That's it. So it's once you negate the money side or you compartmentalize the money side and you see, is this fit my journey? Does this fit my skill set? Is this going to give me joy or is this going to ruin my life? So really deciding what opportunity is good opportunity before it happens is imperative. And the reason being is, what happens if what is in and of itself good opportunity but bad for you comes into a time in your life when you are financially struggling? You might make bad decisions based off of money.
Yeah, that's where urgency and important, the relationship between those two things really comes at a juxtaposition that you got to kind of figure out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who you want.
Yeah.
Who you want.
Yeah.
What you want.
Yeah. And that, when you think about who you are and what you want, I mean, I love Simon Sinek. Or Sinek, however you want to pronounce it. Start with why. I think a lot of people, they cerebrally understand that that's something that they need to do, but they don't actually do it. And I know with you, you're pretty rock solid on saying, here's what my big why is.
My big why is to lead and influence others such that they can live a life and leave a legacy bigger than they ever did. Like that phrase is what gets me out of bed at night. And I always say it keeps me going in the suck, right? Like when it's not great, like that is my North Star. And that might change down the future, but for right now, like that's what drives everything.
Well, that throws you really well into the role of what you're doing, because I mean, there's people. One of my favorite coaches is a guy by the name of John Danaher. He's the one who coached George St. Pierre. Yep. And he talks about the distinct differences between the focus and the resolve that an athlete has to carry versus the focus and the resolve that a coach needs to carry.
Yeah.
And a coach, because they have to be so purposeful about success through others, where an athlete has to be so very specific that they are the modicum of success and there's nothing else.
Well, and it goes back to the original start of this conversation, is like, why go to Toronto, or Kitchener? We're not going to send a ton of referrals back and forth typically. And I was funny as a week later when I got back to the States, I spoke virtually to Thomas's Market Center in Vancouver. No, someplace 4 hours from Toronto.
So it'd be Ottawa.
Ottawa, yes. Like, it was just one of those where that scratches my itch. Like, being able to provide value. If I go up there and one or two people take something away, it's a success. And I truly believe that I had people that took so much time out for me without any financial gain or return in my past that it would be dishonorable to not pass that forward.
Absolutely. And I love that the way that you pass that through, and it goes around the idea of that, you are, the people you surround yourself with. And I think that's one of the other things that you really talk about is, you could look at it's the best opportunity. Is it the people that you want to do business with? Yeah.
So that, my mentor in this industry, and he's the guy that provided me the opportunity within Keller Williams, name's Anthony Azar. He's one of those guys that I try to convey to him how much he's done in my life, and he still doesn't get it. And then we'll get to heaven and he'll be like, "Oh, you were serious." So he told me a long time ago, one of the most important decisions you'll ever make is who you get in business with. And he said, "I don't want to dumb that down. Like, that is why we're having this conversation." And I've got my business partner, Jenny, that owns Team Integrity with me. She is the best business partner you can have on this planet. She is absolutely phenomenal. She is extremely hard worker. She cares. She is, we've shared a desk. Like, we have a 10 by 10 office, and we look across from each other, and we have for the last 6 or 7 or 8 years. She's absolutely phenomenal. She's a great wife, great mom. And then on the insurance company as well, I got a couple business partners there, and who I work closely with is a guy named Jeff Allen. He is the same way. He is absolutely phenomenal, man of integrity, and working on a daily basis with him makes all the difference in the world.
That's amazing. Now, when you look at the building up the team and partners, and specifically, a lot of people focus on when you're scaling the people that you're bringing into your organization. But when you look at the partner level, what are the number one things that you're looking for in a business partner?
I think the first is trust. Like, it has to be trust. Without that, everything else becomes, if you don't nail that, everything's going to be an issue. It just will. So trust is one. I think it's very important to have a partner that's different than you are. We will think it's fun to hire somebody with the same personality as us to be our business partner. And it'll be fun for a little while until the organization blows up. Like, Jenny and I are completely different personalities. We are very opposite personalities. And Jeff, my business partner, for insurance, we are very different personalities. And that's what makes it beautiful. that's what makes it work. So trust, I think personality is big. And then, goals, like what is our goals? Or do we align? Those are all massive questions to be answered. And I also, Jenny and I's business partnership, and then Jeff and I's on the insurance side, like we knew each other before we entered into this. So a lot of those questions were already answered.
Yeah, the idea of finding the uniform truth in alignment of trust, I think is so critical. And then the deviation of skill sets, because if you both do the same thing extremely well, one of them's redundant until you have scale. And so do you guys focus a lot on disc profiling to hone those things, or do you inherently look at the disc profiling, or do you use another mechanism for it?
No, we use DISC, and like we've done the KPA and everything. One is finding out, like, really wrapping, like, here's an example, is if you could pay me 40 hours a week to do podcasts, I'd do it. Like, it energizes me, it's fun, I like talking to people. When I said Jenny had a podcast at 1 o'clock, she goes, have fun with that. Like, she's not enjoying that. So, and that just kind of worked its way out into the business as well, of what her strengths are, mine, and we recognize it and we honor it. And it works out extremely well. So
I think when you say honor, I think that is when it comes to a team, rather than sometimes what will happen is you'll have the operating side look across to the sales, and the sales side look across the operations side with more of a contempt, because they're like, well, I could do their job, but and I could do it better. And, knowing full well that that's not really the truth, but they do look with contempt to maintain that honor, across the organization. What do you do to kind of make that honor glue to keep the organization together? How do you keep that right?
I think one is not meddling. Oftentimes when we meddle in somebody else's wheelhouse, it can cause conflict. And recognizing yourself. I think you have to look intrinsically and say, am I good at this or am I not? Or do I do this with passion or not? Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're passionate about it, and that'll come across in delivery. So that's understanding where you're at, and then the other person in the partnership. That's what makes it. And there was Gary Keller talked about this a long time ago. He said, I own 100% of nothing. And just talking about how, he's got partners in almost everything. And it's, frankly, I would not want to do any of my businesses without partners. Like, that is the most miserable sounding existence for me, personally. I love working with somebody. But it's got to be the right person. It's got to be the right person.
And I always think about that when it comes to real estate. And this is something that always runs as a conundrum for me when people are looking at getting into the real estate space, and whether they go it alone, so to speak, and buying that duplex by themselves, or they go into a joint venture or some sort of syndication or partnership arrangement to go to something large scale and multifamily. And you see that sort of the thought process. And that's one of the things I struggle with, and I try to figure out what is the best method for success. Any thoughts on that?
I think you've got to look at, we're going to enter into that one of three ways: time, influence, or money. And that's where any type of business relationship you have to look at and be very clear about it, because if you're not clear about it, there'll be unmet expectations, which will cause conflict. Are you getting involved in this opportunity because it's going to really invest your time? Or are you going to invest your influence? So maybe you're going to take the podium that you built to influence this organization or whatnot. Or are you just going to be a silent investor? Or you just put money in? I want to return. Here's my metrics of what I want on this return, and I don't care what you do. But you have to have clarity about that, because if you bring somebody in because of their time and money, and all they show up with is money and they don't invest their time, there's going to be conflict. Or it could be the opposite of like, I go, Steve, I want you to invest in this. Cool, send me $50,000. Well, and that's all I want. And then month one, you're like, all right, so what are we doing? Give me the plan. It's like, no, I just wanted your money. I don't want your influence. So clear expectations about the business relationship has to be done ahead of time.
Yeah, and I think that then goes back to that, what you said earlier is the foundation of trust, because I think that's expectations, and satisfying those expectations continually reinforce the trust relationship between people.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's time. Like I'm sure that there is a long list of times that I've made Jenny mad at something I've said, done, or didn't say or do. But we move past those, and that's what. And I think every time you overcome one of those, you build that much more trust.
Yeah. I think, especially when you run into obstacles, I agree with you that that's the biggest way to build trust is how somebody handles stress, how somebody handles failure, how somebody handles obstacles, because it's always really good it's really easy to be a good person when times are good. But when times get tough, I think true character comes out.
This could be a 50 episode podcast, but Jenny and I, we've been through some stuff, and like highs of highs and lows of lows, and coming through the other side of it, it's solidified our partnership relationship. I think too often times we walk around life and relationships with our hand on the injection cord, and like we're white knuckling it. Like we're waiting for the first time it feels uncomfortable, we're pulling that bad boy. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of those where it just does not fare well because you never make progress, right? Yeah. You and I both know people that have worked at 10 different businesses in 10 years.
Yep.
Usually there was some type of conflict or something got uncomfortable and the grass was always greener.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of just sitting there and saying my grass is dying, maybe I should grab a watering can
and what part do I play in this?
Yeah.
That is probably the biggest self-developmental question you can ask yourself in any type of conflict is what part do I play in this? Because we all do, whether it's small or massive, we all play a part.
Yeah. Yeah, you see that a lot in the real estate agents where, they're not successful at one brokerage. So they bounce to the next brokerage. They're not successful at that brokerage. They bounce and they're like, man, all the brokerages in this town are terrible. And you're like, what's the one consistency that happened in each of those situations?
Yeah, we do that with our agents is we'll kind of do an after action report of when something goes sideways because the amount of business we do, like we'll close 5 times a year on average. We're going to have issues. We just will. And after it's done and it's buttoned up, it's hey, what did we learn? Like where do we need to adjust in the future? Where do we have ownership? Where do we have DNA in this? Cool. Let's move forward.
Yep. Yeah, that makes total sense. Sense. Now, one of the things I really love about, and we'll talk a little bit about how to really feel fulfillment out of the things that you're doing. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I know we'll talk a little bit about journey, but I want to talk a little bit about destination. You do an amazing job south of the border. Let's talk a little bit about the things that you're doing to give back. Yeah.
So probably 10 years ago now, there was someone around there. I got introduced to an organization called Lynn Mission, and they build sustainable housing for families living in poverty in Mexico. And I think I've built 16 houses down there now. And it started as me I heard about it and I randomly threw some friends in a car and built a house. And that's been something that has always been a passion of mine. Like an example is when Hurricane Harvey hit Houston, Texas, I was sitting on the couch watching the news and I was like, I got to do something. Like I can't sit here. Like, and it's just some type of let's figure it out. So within 24 hours, I had recruited 3 buddies. I had an RV dealership in once people get to know me, they're like, how on earth did they do this for you? Because that's a really bad business decision. I had an RV dealership in Tucson lend me an RV to drive to a hurricane place full of supplies. We packed it like front to back, that you were laying on paper towels and everything else and trash bags. And me and three buddies loaded in this RV, drove like 23 hours straight, gutted and mudded houses out for a week, and then turned around, drove back and dropped the RV off. And I don't know if they just totaled it or if they tried to sell it afterwards, but it was pretty bad. But just the need. And so I heard about this organization called One Mission, and we went build a house and led to two and started taking groups down. My daughter is 15 years old, and she's built 4 houses down there. So, it's what's unique about One Mission is you have to earn a house. It's not just you put your name in a hat, they shake a bucket, and they pull your name out. You have to serve over 200 hours building other people's houses. So you earn it through that way. And my favorite story is we built a house for a lady. She was 65, and we do a fiesta night every night, every trip, and we do it on like the last night. And the family gets to get up and share about what this means to them, so on and so forth. And she started crying, and the translator was saying, was interviewing. She said, for the first time in my entire life, I get excited when it rains, because whenever it rained before, it would destroy my house and run through our shack. And for the first time, I get to enjoy the rain. And I was thinking, at 65 years old, this is the first time when she sees clouds, her heart doesn't break and she doesn't have anticipation of destruction. She can get excited. And I'm like, when I see rain, I'm like, oh, cool, it's raining. Like, and for her, it's a complete life change now for something so small. And probably one of the most impactful stories we've had.
That's amazing. And that's certainly not small. That is life-changing for her, and for you to be part of that journey. And especially bringing your kids into that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's one of my goals, is that when I'm, and this is about 4 hours from our house, so we drive. And we go down there. It's a beach community, so we also vacation down there. And whenever we go down, we go visit some of the houses we built. There would be nothing that would put a smile on my face more than when I'm gone and you spread my ashes in the ocean, and my kids take their kids down to Puerto Penasco and drive around, and they see the 50 houses that Grandpa built. Like, that's not, it's about the families, but as far as leaving a legacy goes, that's a big one.
Well, it's so impactful, and it's such a statement. And for them to see the journey, especially an intergenerational journey down there, that would be any parent's dream to see something like that. That is awesome. That is awesome.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
And the interesting thing is, if you look at the journey of the individual who did spend the 200 hours and did get the house.
Yeah.
Now, the incremental journey for them, as generationally speaking for them, is huge, magnified. Because the next person to commit is also going to enjoy the rain.
Yeah, well, and I don't have the statistics, but the statistics of families that get out of poverty that don't sleep on the dirt, like as soon as you put like cement down that they can sleep on, or do you get them off the dirt, the chances of them lifting out of poverty are exponential. So that's one of those things we're trying to do. And, One Mission's, what I love about them is they have grown. They haven't just stuck to building houses. An example is these barrios. It's all in a grid shape, and a lot of the houses look alike. Some of them are sheds, basically. Some of them are tents, but it's just in a big grid format. And the issue they were having was when somebody needed an ambulance to come, it's the gray block house halfway, that's a big deal. And so one of the things One Mission did is they said, hey, we're doing street signs for these barrios. So that's one of the things that you can volunteer your hours towards, is going and making street signs for emergency vehicles that could potentially save someone's life. So we talk about that, like that's impacting a community and a culture.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, street signs are so imperative. My wife was a paramedic for 15 years. and not being able to know where you're going or where to find that spot is so difficult. And it's the magic few minutes of whether somebody's going to survive or not.
And we've seen that. Like, we'll be on a roof, finishing the roof, and you used to see ambulances just kind of like make circles, zigzag. And it's like, they're obviously there for a reason. Like, it's scary. And we really take for granted what we have when we get outside of our comfy ecosystem.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we never know what's going to happen in the future. Right.
Yeah.
And, I want to talk to you to talk a little bit about that element too.
Yeah. Yeah. We had, so back in my former life, I worked at churches, and I had a period several years ago, 5 years ago now, where I had lost 3 friends to cancer within about 90 days of each other, and did all 3 of their funerals, ranging from 25 years old to mid-30s with kids, families, all that. And that was kind of, we have these pivotal moments in our lives. That was a big one for me, emotionally and spiritually just depleted at that point. There's only so many times you can stare at your best friend's widow or the parents of a girl that you've known for a long time. And my resolve after that was enjoy the journey, because we're not promised the destination. And we might be planning towards retirement. I'm not saying just burn your money or anything like that, but there's a book called Die with Zero. That's a great book. And enjoy the journey. And that can be minute or that can be grandiose of your life. But like, enjoy your 43rd year of life, because everything that you're working towards of what you're going to do at 70 may never happen. So take advantage of that. Plan that trip. Spend that time. And like, an example is, I took my family to Disneyland. It's about a 6-hour drive from here. And we got halfway through. It's in the middle of nowhere, a little town called Yuma, Arizona. And stopped, used the bathroom, got back in, and the transmission blew up in our Suburban. And we were like, and in my head, like, I'm like, I know how much this is going to cost. Like, we're not even driving back. We're driving to our vacation. And it took me about 5 seconds to collect my thoughts. And I said, hey, Ubering to get a rental. I'm calling right now to book it. I'm going to go talk to the fire station across the street. We're going to park the car there. My buddy's going to drive and pick it up. And we're going to go to Disneyland. We're going to figure it out. And if you ask my kids right now, it was probably one of the most fun experiences we've had, because we figured out we enjoyed the journey. And it
Absolutely.
and then we got there, and California had record rainfall, and it rained 3 days straight. And you know what? We had fun.
That's amazing.
So enjoy the journey. And that's really become like, when you have a flight and you're mad at the 3-hour layover, what opportunities can happen in the airport? Right, you get to have a conversation with. What podcast can you listen to that might change or impact your life? So really just enjoy the journey, or not promise the destination. And if you make it, the destination's that much more sweet.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, then you're doubling down on it, because you're getting the enjoyment through the whole process, irrespective of the ups and the downs. And, because every up, there could be a down, and every down, well, there could be an up. And, but, saying that the destination, while it's extremely important, that those moments, those are the things that make who we are. And I agree with you. There's so many trips that we've done with our kids that have gone sideways. And those are the ones that they remember the most, with the absolute joy of looking on them in the past.
And I look at, you and I are both fight fans. And I look at these guys that do camps for, call it 3 months. We'll call that an average camp. So, and then they go fight and get knocked out in 45 seconds. Like, but I'm sure, like, you interview them 5 years from now, they're going to talk about the heartache of the loss, but they're also going to have 5 hours of stories of camp for you about how fun it was. This happened, that happened. So the destination may not always be as sweet as the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if they take that moment and say, I'm going to use that moment, which was a low moment, to create another high moment. I mean, now you're doubling down on it. So
it is.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
It's a beautiful thing if you allow it to be.
Absolutely. Well, Chase, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. And I encourage any Keller Williams office who wants to, or any actually real office who wants to have them come in and chat. I think that's so amazing to do.
Yeah. We that's a big rock of mine. KW University approved and teaching the leverage series, and we'll be starting traveling. So, yeah, anybody listening that needs some help at a market center, love to help you out.
I'm chasing right behind you on that one, no pun intended, as I build out to be able to deliver that curriculum. Awesome. Well, Chase, thank you so much. And for anybody who wants to reach out to Chase, easiest thing to go is to KW Southern Arizona Team Integrity, and teamintegrityhomes.com is the easiest way to find them. And man, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you on the money, the mindset, and the mentoring podcast. Thanks so much. And we'll see you guys on the next one.